We have a wide, diverse country. And I just think it's time for us to look at this differently. For those who don't have access to affordable health insurance, helping those at the bottom, I think we're all for. But we don't need Washington to ruin the best health care delivery system the world's ever known.
House Speaker John Boehner there with Mitch McConnell and Scott Pelley on 60 Minutes on CBS talking about the need for a Republican alternative to Obamacare. With Miranda Kahn, J.D. Hayworth back with you. And Miranda, we heard Grover Norquist earlier talk about that CBO estimate that it'll cost about $50,000 per person to insure every American.
And in case you're doing the math, that adds up to about $1.35 trillion with a T, and a lot of the money may come out of taxpayers' pockets. That means your pockets, and it would go towards insurance subsidies as well as expanding Medicaid.
Obamacare, suffice it to say, has become a thorn in the sides of so many Americans and their families, but our next guest has renewed her fight to repeal and replace Obamacare with her legislation. Joining us now via telephone to discuss her bill, my former colleague, Congressman Marsha Blackburn of Tennessee, a member of the House Energy and Commerce Committee. Marsha, it's great to have you back on America's Forum.
It is so good to be with you. Thank you.
Well, you've got the bill not only to, some people say you got to reform Obamacare. You want to repeal and replace it, correct?
That's exactly right, and this is where I've been all through the process. And J.D., one of the things I have supported is a cross-state line purchase of health insurance. Now, this is a concept that I've worked on for about 7 years, and we have filed the bill again. It's called the Healthcare Choice Act of 2015. It is identical to H.R. 762, which we introduced in the past Congress and, previous to that, other Congresses. Now, what this would do is to repeal Title I of Obamacare, and that is the insurance section of Obamacare. And Title I handles all your insurance provisions. Now, when you repeal that entire section, you get rid of the individual mandate. You get rid of forcing individuals to make this purchase, and then you also will get rid of the excise tax that is put on every insurance policy. And the added bonus is, by opening up this insurance market and allowing people to buy whatever they want, they also get portability because they own, not the employer, would own the health insurance policy.
So how confident are you that you'll actually be able to achieve this goal of replacing Obamacare with what you call the Healthcare Choice Act?
Well, individuals, as they look at the limited options and the narrow networks that are in Obamacare, and couple that with the fact that the cost has not gone down, the cost is going up, and you mentioned the CBO estimate that we got this week. You're looking at 37% of the federal budget going to health care to cover this cost. And people are saying, wait a minute, I'm paying more, I have fewer options, and I have fewer choices in physicians, and I can't keep the physician that I've had. And what they're saying is, you all need to get rid of this, and they're exactly right. And see, by passing the across-state line purchase of health insurance, which is the Health Care Choice Act, you allow individuals to shop for what they need. So they can go shop anywhere in the country and get a health insurance policy that fits their
needs. We appreciate that, Marsha. Yeah. Our time is a bit short. 2 items very quickly. I guess we'll only get to one of them. 15 seconds on the hearings yesterday for the next Attorney General. Your take. Could you give us 20 seconds on that?
Yes, I think that Loretta Lynch showed that she is not accepting the Constitution and the rule of law. I thought it was astounding.
Well, I tell you what, Marsha, I don't know if you're busy. If you could stay with us, I know you're busy, but could you stay with us through the break and we'll talk more about it?
Sure, I'll stay with you.
Good. That's a promise that she'll keep. Marsha Blackburn back with us as America's Forum continues.
We have the lowest percentage of Americans working. Who has more right to a job in this country? A lawful immigrant who's here, a green card holder, or a citizen, or a person who entered the country unlawfully?
Well, Senator, I believe that the right and the obligation to work is one that's shared by everyone in this country, regardless of how they came here. And certainly if someone is here, regardless of status, I would prefer that they be participating in the workplace than not participating in the workplace.
Loretta Lynch, the Attorney General designate, responding to a question from Alabama Senator Jeff Sessions. Back on America's Forum now, let's continue our conversation with Congressman Marsha Blackburn, Republican of Tennessee. We touched on this before the break, Marsha, and we're so glad you could stay with us. That exchange between Jeff Sessions and Loretta Lynch, is that basically all you had to hear?
That is all I had to hear. I mean, this is ridiculous that she would feel that someone who has illegally entered the country should be placed in line ahead of either a citizen or a legal immigrant. Basically, you have someone who is saying, I don't accept the rules and the laws that are in place, and I don't accept what is defined in the Constitution. I just found it to be astounding and to really show a lack of either understanding or acceptance of what is carried in those laws and rules and in the Constitution.
Representative Blackburn, I presume you've been watching these hearings very closely. What have you thought, what have been some of your thoughts about some of her other responses?
Well, actually, we have been busy with some of our hearings and things in the House, and I have not been able to watch all of her responses as she has come to things. I think, though, that going back to that encounter that she had with Congressman Sessions and also the encounter, with Senator Sessions and Senator Cornyn, what you see is someone who is going to not necessarily say this is the law, and if you want the law changed, go back to Congress. My concern is you will have someone who says, well, this is my interpretation of the law. And many times that interpretation and not abiding by the law, but trying to find a workaround. And, you know, one of the things that frustrates my constituents is they watch an administration who creates a law or goes out here through the agencies, which they've been very prolific in, and they create rules, and then it doesn't work, and then they delay it or they try to find a workaround. I mean, that's one of the major problems with Obamacare.
And that's absolutely frustrating. We can understand that, Marsha. Now, a minute 30 remains. I would be remiss if I didn't talk to you about what may be a debate within the Tennessee delegation. Certainly, I had my share with John McCain when I was serving in the House and he was in the Senate. The gas tax. As I understand it, Senator Bob Corker is calling for an increase in the gasoline tax. I know you respect Senator Corker. He's from your home state. Have you had a chance to explain to him that might not be the way to go? I have a minute left, Marsha.
Well, I am not for the gas tax, and it is simply putting a Band-Aid on an issue and not getting to the core problem. The core problem is you have the Highway Transportation Fund, Trust Fund, and that money goes for all sorts of parks and passive parks and bike trails and hiking trails, museums, things of that nature. The money that goes in there, it is a user tax. It is to be used for the nation's roadways, not for some pad that is there on some commuter train somewhere. And it is time to get all the enhancements off that and then see where you are. To raise the gas tax does not get to the root cause of the problem.
I thought you might have that opinion, Marsha, and I agree with you. Absolutely. Marsha Blackburn, Congressman from Tennessee, thanks so much for your time. We really appreciate you checking in. Next hour, South Carolina Congressman Jeff Duncan and a whole lot more, so stay with us.